Good morning from an extremely wet George Square here in Glasgow with, of course, Queen Street Station behind me there. And today you join me for a fairly ordinary journey across to Edinburgh. Or not, because there are 4 lines between Glasgow and Edinburgh, 4 electrified lines between the two cities via various different stations. However, today I will be doing it slightly differently. I will be instead going via Dundee on one of ScotRail's inter-7-city HST sets. So I'll be taking a standard class service up to Dundee at 10:40, a bit of time in Dundee, and then I will be taking their service in first class down from Dundee to Edinburgh across the Tay Bridge and the Forth Rail Bridge. So I'm quite excited for this journey. It should be really good to get standard and first class on their HSTs and hopefully see some nice scenery along the way. So it's chucking it down out here. Let's head into the station, get dry, get a drink before we hop on board our train. As just mentioned, today's journey will be starting at Glasgow Queen Street, one of the 2 main terminus stations in the city. Opened in 1848 by the Edinburgh-Glasgow Railway and later redesigned in 1878, Queen Street Station has undergone major redevelopment works within the last 10 years, electrifying the key commuter line to Scotland's capital and remodelling the station's concourse, offering a much enhanced space to wait for trains, complete with ticket office, shops and improved access to the low-level platforms. And with my train having been announced on platform 5 about 15 minutes before departure, it was time to head through the gate line and take a closer look at ScotRail's inter-7-city services. Of course, my service up to Dundee would be formed of a ScotRail shortened HST set, formed of 5 carriages and 2 Class 43 power cars on either end. Made up of both 4 and 5 car formations, these inter-7-city trains operate unsurprisingly between 7 of Scotland's cities, and since introduction back in 2018 have provided a much higher level of comfort than the DMUs they replaced. However, ScotRail are currently in the process of looking for replacements for these nearly 50-year-old trains, so I decided to make the most of it and see what they're like in both classes of travel. Having boarded the fairly empty train, I took my seat in an unreserved bank of 2 before having a look around at the seats themselves. Upholstered in the very smart ScotRail Intercity maquette, these seats in standard class are actually really comfortable, featuring the usual fold-down armrest, sturdy tray table and a standard plug socket, plenty good enough for the longer routes these trains serve. So with departure from Queen Street Station bang on time, let's have a look at today's very unusual route to Edinburgh. Starting from Glasgow, we make our first stop at the city of Stirling, famous for its historic castle, before continuing onwards to Perth. It's here where we branch away from the Highland mainline to Inverness, instead speeding alongside the Tay estuary into the city of Dundee. After a quick change of trains, we turn back on ourselves, this time crossing the stunning Tay Bridge before stops at Lucas and Cooper as we make our way towards the Fife coast. Crossing the world-famous Forth Rail Bridge, we soon reach our final stop at Haymarket, where it's just a short hop onwards to Edinburgh Waverley. Total journey time is scheduled to be 2 hours and 32 minutes to cover the 140-mile route, giving our HST an average speed of 57 miles per hour.
Good morning and welcome on board the ScotRail service to Aberdeen, calling at Stirling, Perth, Dundee, Scotty Ferry, Monteith, Carnoustie, Arnclose, Montrose, Lawrencekirk, Stonehaven, Portletton and arriving in Aberdeen at approximately 27 minutes past 1.
Exactly 25 minutes after departure, we pull into the beautiful Stirling railway station. Often overlooked, this station was constructed by architect James Miller in 1915 and incorporates the circular spaces and flowing curves synonymous with his more celebrated piece of work at Weems Bay. Now at this point, it's also worth mentioning the cost of this part of today's trip. For an advanced single with a railcard discount, it cost me just £9.05, which I thought was a pretty good price for the 1 hour and 20-minute journey. And not long after departure, the onboard trolley made an appearance, so I decided to buy myself a nice cup of tea, which was enjoyed as we pulled into the Grand Junction station at Perth.
This is Perth. Tickets and smart cards must be validated before boarding the train.
Upon departure, we make a sharp turn eastwards, crossing the River Tay before our final 20-mile run up to Dundee.
This is Dundee. This train is your...
Just over 1 hour and 20 minutes later, and I've made it to Dundee, and it was a really good first part of the journey in standard class on the ScotRail HST, so hopefully it will continue like that when we go in first class down to Edinburgh in about 1 hour and 15 minutes time. Until then, I'm going to have a look around Dundee station, maybe go outside, find something to eat, and I will see you back here at around about 1 o'clock for our journey onwards to Edinburgh. The station here at Dundee was opened in 1878, based around 2 Central Bay platforms with the 2 through lines on either side. And with plenty of HST traffic between Glasgow, Edinburgh and Aberdeen, I spent most of my time under the cover of the platform canopy, watching the increasingly rare trains come and go. I'm now back at Dundee railway station, so let's head inside out of the rain and we can wait on the platform for my next train down to Edinburgh. Heading through the relatively new station concourse, it wasn't long before my second HST of the day was pulling into the station with the service originating up in Aberdeen. For this part of the journey though, I'd be travelling in first class, which cost me £19.70 for the slightly shorter 1 hour and 10-minute journey, an upgrade cost of about £11. However, there is the option of upgrading on board for £15, well worth it on longer journeys between Inverness and Aberdeen and Glasgow and Edinburgh. Boarding the only first class carriage located at the rear of the train, seating is laid out in the standard 2+1 configuration, and with my reservation being one of the aisle seats at a table of 4, I took a wander down the carriage and took one of the unreserved solo seats. The first class carriage is extremely smart, featuring the lovely ScotRail tartan carpet, as well as plenty of luggage space and a small counter at the end where complimentary water and biscuits are located. The seats themselves, fitted by GWR when they operated these sets in the southwest, are extremely comfortable, featuring a large winged headrest, a fold-down armrest, an excellent amount of recline, and both USB and standard plug sockets. A truly first class product. Of course, the main focal point upon leaving Dundee as we head towards Edinburgh is the impressive 2-mile-long Tay Bridge. Opened in 1887 after the tragic Tay Bridge disaster in 1879, the current bridge has a total of 85 spans crossing the estuary, carrying up to 70 train services a day. It was at this point that the complimentary hot drinks were served from the trolley, along with some biscuits and water from the counter. So I sat back into the comfort of my seat as the beautiful Scottish scenery rolled by. Just like that, I've arrived at Edinburgh Waverley after that really nice journey down from Dundee on the HST behind me there in first class. And to be honest, it only cost me £19 down from Dundee. It was about a £10 upgrade, and I think it was worth it considering I got to try out the seats and I got some free snacks and drinks as well. And to be honest, it was a really good overall journey in both standard and first. They're comfortable seats on board, and it's generally just a nice train to ride on. So that concludes today's journey from Glasgow. It was a bit of a long way round. We got there in the end, and it turned out to be a really enjoyable trip, especially crossing over some nice scenery and the bridges. So thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you next time.